Yesterday, here in the UK, the budget got released. So we're going to go through it today and see exactly what economic situation this means for you. This was the first proper budget that we've actually seen in years, since October 2021. And this is because of all the crazy things that have been happening in the world. We had COVID, which meant that the budget was full of furlough schemes. And then we had the mini budget. And yeah, it basically has been a long time coming. And I think a lot of us were expecting measures to be put into place to really help the UK's economic situation. As we go through this, we're going to focus on the main points of the budget and we're going to keep it really simple because I really want this to be accessible information for all. And I invite you to start a conversation in the comments section. So leave your thoughts below on any points that we discussed today. So first up is childcare. Childcare is and has been notoriously expensive. I know that this is really difficult for a lot of parents in the UK and they literally sometimes get to the point of weighing up whether it's even worth going back to work. If they're not lucky enough to have friends or family that can actually offer them free childcare, quite often it gets to the point where it makes more sense financially not to go back to work and just spend the time with their child because they would be paying more for childcare than they would be bringing in from their day job. And although I don't have children, I imagine this is really, really difficult. So I'm glad at the very least that it was a talking point in the budget. Having said that, let's see exactly what was said. So parents will be given an extra 30 hours a week free childcare for every single child over the age of 9 months, starting the moment maternity or paternity leave ends. Okay, sounds good. Let's see what else was said. The package would be worth on average 6,500 every year for a family with a 2-year-old child using 35 hours of childcare every week, reducing childcare costs by nearly 60%. That all sounds relatively helpful and good at surface level, but there's a few problems here that I've noticed. The first problem here is that this plan is to be released in stages, which probably makes some sense in terms of logistics. However, this means that a lot of parents with young children right now probably won't even benefit from this unless they obviously go on to have further children. You can see here that it says from September 2024. So people are going to have to wait over 12 months to actually see this come into play. They also go on to say that for parents on universal credit, help will be given up front instead of in arrears. At the moment, what happens in this situation is that people get the money back after the childcare has happened, which is of course a bit of a problem if you're not able to afford childcare in the first place. Like, how are you going to pay that money up front? So this is kind of a positive change in that aspect. So talking about the logistics of this, we have some issues here. Firstly, it says the minimum staff to child ratio in nurseries will be changed from 1 to 4 to 1 to 5 for 2-year-olds in England, as it currently happens in Scotland. Basically, they're having to change the ratio between the staff members and the child members and the children. I think this is because if they're going to start offering childcare, free childcare, they're going to need more staff members because a lot of people right now probably don't put their children in childcare full time because they simply can't afford it. If it becomes more affordable, people may turn to that as an option, which of course means a surge in demand. How on earth are we going to keep up with that demand? There is already a massive struggle of getting people into this work area. People don't want, not everyone, I can't talk for everyone, but there is more demand than there is supply in terms of people in the role to actually be able to sort this out. What I'm trying to say is that it's already hard to recruit people for these types of roles, let alone when the demand surges and you need 10 times the amount of people. You know, the money offering is not there. People aren't going to feel like they really want to rush to do this job. It's a hard job and it doesn't pay extremely well. Like I said, the demand right now is a lot lower than it's going to be, and it's already hard to meet this demand. So yeah, I think this is a really good thing at surface level, and I really hope it can happen because I know how many people struggle with the cost of childcare, and it's just sad that, you know, they're not able to work and have childcare because it just financially doesn't make sense. So I think this is going to be a good thing. Logistically speaking, I don't know how it's going to work. And also, it's going to take some time, which again is not great for the people that need it right now. Next up, we have energy bills. This is a topic that we all know in depth right now. We've all been hit hard with the energy bills. Energy prices have just been absolutely soaring. It's been so volatile out there. And there was a point that a lot of us were wondering how on earth we're actually going to be able to put our heating on, to cook our food, and to be able to afford to do that. It was quite a panic at some points. So at the moment, we have the energy price guarantee, which caps the average household bills at 2,500. Originally, this was planned to stop, but it's been extended now until June. End of June, 1st of July. It's going to be extended until that time. So we're going to get 3 more months of this energy price cap. And then after this point, it will extend to £3,000. This is meant to save the average family a further £160. Now, what I'm seeing in this budget a lot, and this is just an opinion, right? This is my opinion. This is not meant to be financial advice or anything like that. So do leave your opinions. But I'm seeing lots of talk about how the average family is going to save this amount, this amount, this amount. And they're all very little amounts in the grand scheme of things. £160 per year is a lot of money for a lot of people. But there are some things that they could have done in this budget that would have saved the average person a lot more money. So yeah, just bear that in mind. There's some good things in here though, nevertheless, I'm sure. We'll carry on working through it. Prepayment meter customers, usually those on low incomes. It's a bit of an assumption, but yeah, okay. Will also no longer be charged more energy that people who pay for by, I read that all wrong, but yeah, they're not going to be charged more than those with a direct debit. So more than 4 million households are now expected to save £45 a year on their bills. Again, nice. I'd love to save an extra £45, but it's not going to be life-changing for the average hardworking person. I have definitely benefited from getting the help towards my energy bills, the £67 or whatever it is, and this cap being in place because, like I said, energy prices have been soaring and it has been quite stressful. Having said that, I hope that if we see volatility in energy prices again, like we have been, that more help will be given in that area. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see with that one. Now on to benefits. The work capability assessment, which determines whether a person is able to work, will be scrapped. What this means is that in the budget, they announced a plan to essentially remove the link between the ability to work and any health-related benefit entitlement. So they removed the incapacity benefit, basically. The government stated that the reason for this is basically to increase work incentives, to get more people into work. Because at the moment, those people who receive incapacity benefits generally lose them entirely if they go out and they find a job, if they're capable of doing so. Meaning that people don't really feel the urge to actually go out and find a job because it means that these benefits that they're getting are going to be stopping. However, I think the point here is that it's not always a simple yes/no decision whether you are able to work or not. Some people need the financial support but are able to do a little bit of work, and hopefully this will allow that. So basically the idea of this is that it will allow people with health issues to go and seek work without losing their benefits. It sounds good in theory, but the government's own survey, they did a survey, and that survey showed that only 4% of incapacity benefit claimants feel that they could actually return to work right now if the job were available. So only 4% of all of this population say that they are actually able to return to work due to their health reasons, whatever. So I don't know how prominent this action is going to be. There was also an announcement that there will be a new £900 payment, and this is going to be for about 8 million people. It will be means tested, so it will include those on universal credit, pension credit and tax credit, and basically it will be free installments into those people's accounts. They also announced separate from that, £150 for more than 6 million disabled people, which will be paid in the summer, and £300 for more than 8 million pensioners that they'll get next winter. Hunt also announced a new programme called Universal Support. I swear Universal Support is already, okay, maybe I'm getting my words mixed up. A voluntary employment scheme for disabled people. The government will spend up to £4,000 per person to help them find appropriate jobs and will fund 50,000 places every single year. Let me know what you think of this, all of these measures in terms of benefits that were announced at the budget. especially if you're someone that can relate to this more. Personally, I can't really relate to disability benefits and stuff like that and all of these changes because it doesn't affect me. So if you're someone that can, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and any opinions. Do you think this is going to be helpful? Do you think it's not going to be very useful, etc., etc.? So let's now move on to the next section, which is pensions. Workers will be allowed to put more money into their pension pot before being taxed by lifting the lifetime pension allowance. The current £40,000 cap has been increased to £60,000. The lifetime allowance, which is the total amount of money you can build up in a pension scheme, has been abolished. It was previously set at 1.07 million. So what this means is that those high earners, so the millionaires, the people in really, really high paying jobs, can now basically save for their retirement whilst enjoying the tax-free benefits, full tax-free benefits. I think that there's a lot to be said for this one, but just to keep this brief, I think this is a way to try and stop the issue where people in really well-paying jobs, so, you know, doctors, business owners, whatever, high-paying jobs, actually are choosing to retire early due to the tax penalties. I actually think people should be encouraged to retire early if they've worked hard, they've done well financially, they've been smart financially, they've invested, etc., etc., all the things we talk about on this channel. Then they should be encouraged to become financially free and retire early and, do things that make them happy. Of course, speaking politically and in terms of a financial viewpoint for the country, that wouldn't really make much sense. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting point of the budget. And I think a lot of people are saying that this really helps the really wealthy people, but doesn't help the average everyday person like me and probably like you. So yeah, do let me know your thoughts on this one as well. Next up, we have fuel and beer and wine. We'll just do these in one. So the 5p cut in the price of petrol and diesel will be kept along with the freeze on fuel duty for another 12 months. This is meant to save the average driver £100 per year and around 200 since the 5p cut was introduced. I'm all up for saving money. Again, I don't know how crazy this is going to affect people. And then we move on to beer and wine. So basically what's going on with this one is that draft drinks will now be 11p cheaper than in supermarkets. So hopefully this will encourage people to go out to their local pubs and help support local businesses, because hopefully it will be cheaper in those places than buying it in a supermarket, which obviously hasn't previously happened. I know that there's been a time where going out for a drink just wasn't financially sensible. Like, it was way cheaper to get it and take it home. So hopefully this will encourage people to go and support local businesses. But of course, as well, look, alcohol duties will rise with inflation. I don't really have any strong opinions on this because I just don't really drink alcohol. So to be honest, it's not going to affect me at all. Like, they could make it 30p cheaper, they could raise alcohol by 70%, it's not really going to affect me. So yeah, if you've got any strong opinions, again, let me know. Next up, we've got corporation tax. Confirmed that this tax will increase from 19% to 25%. I think this one's getting quite overlooked because this is a pretty big U-turn. This percentage has actually been falling for many, many years, and this is the first time in a while that we've seen it increase, and increase by a large amount. This increase is only affecting those businesses that have over £250,000 in profits. He also introduced a new scheme here, so a new full expensing policy at the cost of $9 billion for the next 3 years. It means money a company invests in IT, plant or machinery can be deducted in full and immediately from taxable profits. Now, this increase in corporation tax could have quite a substantial effect on a lot of businesses in the UK. I am wondering, and this is just me having a theory, if this will actually drive a lot of businesses out of the UK and not bring many new businesses in. Obviously, time will tell. I don't really know. I'm not in the government. This is just some person on the internet having an idea. But it's definitely interesting to think about. And I know for sure that this rise is making a lot of people very worried and a lot of people very unhappy. The next topic is actually not featured in this article, but in the budget, they also spoke about these new investment zones. So there's going to be this creation of 12 investment zones across the UK. So these chosen 12 zones across the UK, and if I remember, there will be the areas put on the screen now. If not, just Google it. I'm sure it's very, very available. I can't actually remember where they're going to be. But the whole idea is that in these areas, growth is going to be boosted. So money is going to be put in to make these areas better. So the chosen zones will actually be able to choose from £80 million of funding for skills, business support, infrastructure, or 35 million in funding and a set of tax relief that the government estimates will cost 45 million over 5 years. This includes full relief from stamp duty land tax on sales of commercial properties, business rates on new or extended properties, etc., etc., enhanced capital allowances. So the whole idea is that they're going to invest into these 12 zones in order to make them better, higher growth, more profitable in the future. I do wonder what this will do. I can't remember the areas that were listed off the top of my head, but I do wonder if people will start moving to those areas and what it will mean from a logistics point of view. Okay, so now we move on to defence. The Ministry of Defence will be given an extra 5 billion over 2 years and a total of 11 billion over the next 5 years. The extra funding is expected to take spending from 2% GDP in 2020 to 2.5%. The independent financial watchdog also said inflation looks to fall from 10.7% in the first quarter of last year to 2.9% by the end of 2023. Put your predictions down below. Do you think we'll hit an inflation level of 2.9% by the end of this year? Technically speaking, we are not in a recession because we haven't had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. But yeah, definitely let me know your thoughts on this. So those were the main points of the article, but we're not stopping there. There are some more things to talk about that weren't included on that article, but actually are important that were brought up in the budget. About 21 million people are getting a pay rise of about 10% next month. So this includes pensioners, universal credit recipients, and workers on the minimum or living wage. The personal tax rises planned for next month via this freezing of income tax thresholds is still going to be going ahead. This will mean that there will be an extra 500 in tax for the basic taxpayers 2023 to 2024 and an extra 1,000 for those higher taxpayers. So more tax to be paid. I'm sure that these are maybe necessary from a financial viewpoint of the government, but this is really difficult in terms of household incomes just continuing to fall, people not being able to afford things, etc., etc. This is actually known as fiscal drag, which I only just recently learned. And the whole idea is that it will push more UK citizens into paying income tax and push others into paying a higher rate, which will then raise billions for the government. So that's why they're doing it, I think, essentially. There were some things that I believe were missing from this budget. Things that we maybe expected to see that were really important topics that were just missed completely. So let's just talk about them because they didn't get mentioned in the budget and they are a really, really important talking point, again, in my opinion. The first thing that I think was completely missed was more tax-free allowances for the average everyday person. So we have our ISA here in the UK. There was a lot of speak about a month ago about that getting minimized, and that was really, really scary, the whole think tank thing. And I really pray and I hope that that doesn't happen because the ISA is a way for, like I said, the average everyday person to start striving and working towards being financially independent. And I love that. I love that for us. I really do. But we've also had the really negative news recently that our dividend and capital gains tax-free allowances outside of an ISA account or a tax efficient account is actually going to be halved and then halved again. And that's not great in my opinion. It was quite sad news. It was basically decided that the capital gains tax allowance will be reduced from 12,300 to 6,000 from April 2023. So the new tax year coming up very, very soon. And then it will be cutting again in half to 3,000 from April 2024. So going from 12,300 to 3,000, that is a massive decrease in what people can have in very, very short time periods. Again, the dividend amount was also halved, and then it's going to be halved again. So it's going to go from 2,000 to 1,000 and then to 500 for individuals who obviously receive dividend income. So I was kind of hoping that maybe some reassurance on the ISA front or the cut in dividend and capital gains tax would be removed, but we didn't see any of that. So unfortunately for me, who really loves investing, we didn't see that. But moving on, the next big thing that I think was missing, that there was just no mention of an increase in pay, better hours, funding to be found to basically improve public sector workers. So we're talking about our teachers, our nurses, our doctors, the public sector workers that have, had issues for a long time. They've been going on strike for quite a while now, and there was no mention of it at all. There is a real problem with doctors, nurses, teachers leaving the professions that they really, they went to uni for a long period of time. They probably were really passionate about getting into that industry, and they are being turned away from doing that work because, the hours are awful, the stress is awful, work-life balance, the pay is just not, they're not being paid what they deserve to be paid. We can go on and on, but yeah, there was just no mention of that. And I actually trained to be a teacher. During the training, so the PGCE, I left because I quickly, and I'm very thankful, I quickly realized that the payoff versus work versus stress was just not worth it. The amount of hours that has to go into doing that job properly and fitting with all the rules and regulations, it's a lot. It's a lot. And yeah, I also did a degree at university, which could have allowed me to then study a little bit more to become a doctor. And again, I decided against that for whatever reasons, but some reasons definitely included the pressure and the lack of pay and the amount of hours. So yeah, it's a talking point that I really believed would come up just because of the amount of strikes and stuff, but it wasn't mentioned at all. The next one is the housing crisis. If you are in the UK right now and you're looking to get on the property ladder and have been for the last few years like myself, it has been so tough and it's been really difficult, nearly impossible. It's been said that the private rent fees have been rising up to 15% over the last year. That wasn't mentioned in the budget. Homelessness has almost doubled in the last 10 years, and still there has been nothing mentioned to help people that are renting, who are drowning in debt. Fees are going up everywhere and it's becoming really difficult. I am able to afford my rent. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm also struggling to get to the point where I can afford to buy a house. So it's really tough. Decades ago, buying a house was what everyone was able to do, and that's not really the case at the moment. So there's lots to be said here. There's lots to be unpicked. I can't do it all in this video. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. If there's anything else you expected to hear about or you were hoping to hear about in the budget that wasn't mentioned, again, pop them in the comments below. General thoughts, I think that there are some good things here, hopefully, that will help people, but there seems to be other things related to those good things that haven't been discussed, logistics, of it, timelines, things like that. And I think there was a lot of things that should have been mentioned that weren't, that would have really helped the average everyday person. So with that, I'm going to leave it here. I invite conversation on this topic. Please try and keep it related to finance and investments and, things that are relevant to this channel rather than really political stuff, because I want to open a conversation about finance, not about politics. So just bear that in mind. But yeah, please leave your comments in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon member and getting access to my Discord, I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you shortly in another one.